Soundbombing Panthers. Soundbombing Panthers.
We gonna make fight five with five, then you fight five with one. Then we gonna fight racism, not racism, but we gonna fight without gas. There's only two classes. And that's saying there's a class over here and there's a class over there. And the reason that this class over here has never did anything to get this class off its back because this is lower, this is upper. This is the oppressed, this is the oppressor. This is the exploited, this is the exploiter. And these people in this class have divided themselves and say, I'm black and I hate white people. I'm white and I hate black people. I'm Latin American and I hate hillbillies. I'm hillbilly and I hate Indians. So we fight amongst each other. With no education, the people that take this local foundation and start stealing money because they won't be really educated to why it's the people thing anyway. Because if they don't have an education, then they know where. You dig what I'm saying? They know where because they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. And then if they're not educated, they want more. And before you know it, they'll be champions. Before you know it, we have Negro imperialism.
Hasn't it occurred to you that it's damn near time we organize ourselves in some fashion to have some ability, the ability to define the situation, and we are defining it? What is politics? You think politics starts with a seat in the assembly? No, it doesn't. It's related to it, but it doesn't start there. Politics starts with hungry, so hungry, so hungry, so hungry, so hungry, so hungry, so hungry. Make sure that we won't fall into more bags.
We didn't get any of that history from all of those soldiers that we lost. We got none of that. They all went to jail, if you can remember. They all went to penitentiary. We didn't see none of that knowledge. If it was not for my mother who stayed home and didn't go out and do all that, then I wouldn't have had shit. Excuse my language. But I wouldn't have been nowhere. It's on just like it was on when you was young, and you want to say fuck that just like you said fuck that back then. And niggas is still trapped. And niggas is still trapped. And niggas is still trapped. You know what I'm saying? And it gets me hurt. It's not gonna stop until we stop it. We stop it. I don't even got a chance to get the fucking knowledge. I can't go to college. There's too much problems out here. I don't got the money. Nobody do. You understand? We gotta get our brothers from the street like Harry Pepper. Like Malcolm did, the real Malcolm. You gotta remember this was a pen. We forgot about all our brothers in the street. And that's who's teaching the new generation. That's right. Take this product, you switch it, you make money, you get money, you get the hell up out of here. You gotta either be, the intelligent person or you're a gut person. We all the same. We all feel it like y'all feel it. I just can't hold a straight face when I see it.
And why they get rid of me? Because I'm saying something that might wake up some other exploited people and some other oppressed people. And if all these people ever get together, we'll be able to run into the lake. That's why they want to get rid of us. I'm the first move that they ever made.
So that was ended with Fred Hampton. A lot of people don't know who Fred Hampton is. There's a really good documentary on Fred Hampton. I watched it, and I was like, why don't we learn about this guy like we learned about MLK? Fred Hampton was an African-American activist and revolutionary, chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. Black Panther Party spread a lot like Occupy Wall Street. It wasn't centrally organized, but people were inspired to replicate it everywhere else, and they just put out their values, and then people started chapters according to those values. Hampton and fellow Black Panther Mark Clark were killed during a raid by a tactical unit of the Cook County, Illinois State's Attorney's Office in conjunction with the Chicago Police Department and the FBI, December 1969. They called it justifiable homicide, but on the tape you hear them. What they did is they took a Gatling gun, they took a machine gun, they had an informant. Yeah, we watched the documentary and check it out. It's all pretty well documented. They had an informant on the inside telling them where everyone was situated because they had a bunch of guns, because the Black Panthers thing was that he was 21 when he got killed. Black Panthers thing was like, we're like the Brown Berets in LA. We're being attacked, criminalized just for having our identities in these urban areas. This is institutional racism. These people have grown up racist. The cities were built by racists, and they're being segregated in racist ghettos still, and they're being targeted. And so maybe less so, I guess, after the civil rights, but this is still the tail end of the civil rights movement. So black people, Black Panthers, were like, we're going to start carrying guns and policing our own. And they were really antagonistic. You watch the videos, and they're calling cops pigs, and Fred Hampton saying, I was born a revolutionary, and I'm going to be a revolution till, and all, was he? I was born a revolutionary, and I'll die a revolutionary, something like that. I'll be a revolutionary until the day I die. So they're very antagonistic. Don't fuck with us because now we're armed. That's not antagonistic, I guess. Where does defense of your dignity and self-respect go to antagonism? Is merely carrying a firearm antagonism? Because some people can do that. These open carry protests. And then other people, it's scary. So it was scary, I guess, to have a lot of African Americans carrying firearms. So they had a informant tell them where everyone was laying with all the guns in the apartment. And then the police came with like a machine gun, Gatling gun type, and they just shot the whole place up. So everyone was sleeping. So they didn't bust open the door, they didn't do that. They just shot through the walls and pretty much fucking, got everyone. And then they walk up to Fred Hampton's body and they, I don't know, where'd they get that audio tape? I should look that up. But they say, is he dead? And then the cop goes and puts a bullet in his head and says, now that nigger's good and dead. Now that nigger is good and stories. I'm like, I didn't get this. It's like when you learn that they burned down Black Wall Street. There's this whole community of rich black people in the South, and the white people came one day to burn it down, and they had their own airport, they had their own banks, their own movie theaters. It's like thousands of black people with money who decided to live on their own and do well, and the white people came and just raided it and burned it down. It's more specific than white and black, I guess. These are African Americans from the slave trade history of the United States. And then these white people, what were they? Were they German immigrants, Eastern Europeans? Probably not. I think that was before the wave of Eastern European Jews. And also, people who are persecuted usually don't act like that. I don't think they're Irish either. So it's find out what these people's stories are and where they came from. Usually lends. Now that nigger's good and dead. I'm seeing if this quote, I was like, what I'm interested in is when I run across this stuff while I'm writing the political thing, I was like, how did I, maybe now that nigger's dead, how did I miss this? Like, you're just shocked sometimes that stuff is left out of your education. And I'm just like, this seems like very relevant stuff to teach people about the climate of American race. And if you want to know why certain groups are sensitive, it's like, if you didn't teach about, it's not directly, we learned a little bit about the civil rights movement, but if you left out the Holocaust, which we've left out the Belgian Congo out of, that's just what, maybe that makes an appearance in the age of imperialism or the scramble for Africa, but this is a Holocaust on the scale of maybe even bigger than the Jewish Holocaust. So you can't understand the Armenian story when you meet an Armenian unless you understand their Holocaust. If you met a Jewish person and you didn't know about the genocide of Hitler against the Jewish people, you would think it odd that they're so defensive. Or they're like, when my friend got mad at me for saying people might view it as a failed culture. That was my attempt at an off-color joke that was a stony conversation. But when she got mad, I understood why she got mad. This is a very sensitive topic. Like, there's a lot of parts to the African American story that aren't in our common narrative. They're not the only victims, though. Right now, we have over 12 million undocumented, who we call illegal. We have second-class citizens right now, my cousins, people that I know, blood, who, well, a lot of them are DACA now. They got into that Obama dream thing. But there's still, it's not. It's like you can hate Reagan, but he helped a lot of people through amnesty. That's why I wrote that amnesty story. Is about them forgiving themselves. Not even fuck the government. It's about like this, how the families live with some of them over here and some of them over there. Our institutions are so inhuman. Capital freely goes across the border. Chinese, Korean companies, international companies, that's what NAFTA was. In these maquiladoras on the Mexican border. Capital moves around the world preying on labor. Here, I'm going to find that quote, Fred Hampton, real quick. Now that nigger's dead. We are Hampton. We are trying to reclaim stories that aren't in the common narrative. I just get a bunch of fucking Pulp Fiction. If you use the N-word, all you get is Pulp Fiction. I used to use the N-word when I was young. And then Mike and his friends didn't let me. I was like, nigga this and nigga that, nigga please. I really like nigga please. I used to use that a lot. That was a really good one. But now it sounds weird. When you fall out of practice, the N-word sounds weird. And they corrected me. They said, you can't use that word. And I was like, what? Dude, fuck that. You can't tell me what to say. But, you know, people do it when you use it. And they're like, man, fucking whoop your ass if you use that word. And I'm like, man. And then now as an adult, my niggas sound weird. Here we go. Fred Hampton, Black Panthers, he says he's good and dead now. I thought he said the fucking N-word. I guess that's why your memory is. He said he's good and dead now. Finished shooting, one of the last things she heard someone say, he's good and dead now. So it's one of the survivors who overheard the cops saying, is Fred Hampton dead? He's good and dead now. Shot him in the head. 21-year-old kid who could have fucking played professional baseball. He was this huge beast of a man. Fucking athletic and shit. And when you see him, see videos, let me get a picture of him. It's like out of all the people I see in history and like people that talk and people who are charismatic and people who, this is one of the dudes where I'm like, if I'd be friends with anyone, this dude was a fucking beast. Look at this dude. That's like Marlon Brando's Streetcar Named Desire. That's a fucking, he could have done a lot of shit with his life and he wanted to be a revolutionary pushing for fucking, to protect his community. This is that male energy. This is a big spirit within a big body, not fearing anyone. And then the intelligence he had, when you have that much gift, when that big of a presence and then that big of a body and fucking, and then to not be, I guess it was ego to have all those guns and tempt the cops like that because they knew what game they were playing. Be careful, like they say anarchism is a game in which the police can beat you. That's a play on words because it's an excuse for the police to beat you. Be careful the associations you pick. But he's a very smart dude. What did he say? That's Tupac.
You're a gut person. We all the same. We all feel it like y'all feel it. I just can't hold a straight face when I see it.
And why they get rid of me? Because I'm saying something that might wake up some other exploited people and some other oppressed people. And if all these people ever get together, we'll be able to run into the lake. That's why they want to get rid of us. I'm the first move that they ever made.
And they got him. And then you push crack cocaine to the inner cities, and then now you don't have Black Panthers no more, right? Yeah, this is Fred Hampton. We're fighting amongst each other. Saying identity politics isn't helping us.
Local foundations start stealing money because they won't be really educated to why it's the people thing anyway. Because if they don't have an education, then they're nowhere. You dig what I'm saying? They're nowhere because they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. And then if they're not educated, they want more. And before you know it, we'll be challenging. Before you know it, we have Negro imperialists.
I think Fred Hampton would call Barack Obama a Negro imperialist. What did Barack Obama do but go to Chicago, where Fred Hampton was killed, to wash himself in the revolutionary rhetoric of the narratives? Barack Obama is like the fucking cheesiest screenplay writer ever, where he just throws in tropes, movie tropes. black man from Chicago, so you assume he's revolutionary, or he at least is progressive. It just says enough about the Palestinian issue, oppressed people. He goes to that revolutionary church. I want to look up something real quick, Barack, because that's what it is. It's not when people just vote based off of, they're so shallow. They're like, Barack's the first black president. He's a fucking shit human being. Who cares what his skin color is? And people say, well, people vote for Trump because they're racist. Those same people voted for Obama. How does that make you feel to hope for change and this and that, and then learn that the dude is just a fucking hollow brand? It pisses you off. It's not. Anyone who hears Fred Hampton's story is gonna, and he was so young too. All of his faults and his youth exuberance can be chalked up to youth. Like, the guy was way mature for his age. When I'm looking back at my life now, when I was 21, I was just getting out of the army. I'm still fucking around. It's like, the dude was a mature political organizer with a presence, and when he talks, he's just so confident and so direct, and he's already beyond hate and beyond, his morality is already so developed at 21. He's like, not identity, it's not white versus black, fucking, where he says exactly, he sees the chessboard of how they're going to come at us. And he says they're going to try to divide us against each other based on identities. This is more about oppression and power. He was already seeing the larger power hierarchies and the oppression. And he was saying that people like me, the unifiers, the people who have, and then that's what I see in Zen Buddhism too, is that why was the founder of Zen the founder of martial arts? Because when you speak really clearly and get at the truth of the matter, there's a physical violence involved. That guy in the bar, when I told him, I was like, you're wearing that camo because you think you're a Viking, and you're not a fucking Viking. You're playing out your masculine mythology in other people's blood. I have friends and family who are dying over there in these war zones that you're giving your casual opinion of in this bar right now because you want to play some mythic fucking masculinity that you've been deprived of because you're selling ads. You're not a man. What do you know about manhood? I told someone that once. They're like, I'm just trying to fucking get by. I'm just trying to be a man. What the fuck do you know about manhood? Tell me. And then he just was like, I could hit you in the face right now. That's all he knows about manhood. That's a child. Fucking violence is childish. That's what I was trying to get at that other story too. It's like anyone can be violent. That's what, I guess, I don't know. Fred Hampton, I guess, was trying to defend himself, but it would have been nice if he could have survived, right? And if he could have used all those other abilities. It's like, that's why I shy away from like people who talk about violence. It's like, there's so many other avenues, and there's so many people who've come before us. And if you have like that charisma that he had, and the spirit, and the street knowledge, plus the ability to articulate himself in a way that he didn't need college, because he could string together compound sentences and logical, coherent thoughts, and like I was saying, his morality, he has all the indications psychologically, behaviorally, of a very well-developed mind with natural gifts. And he was only getting better. It's like, this, it's too valuable to fuck with guns. He was too valuable to be playing that game. But you don't have options. He didn't see other options. And then if you feel like you're really in a war zone, and back then the cops were actually torturing people. You could look it up. The Chicago cops were coming out of Vietnam, and they were fucking PTSD maniacs, and they were hooking people up to electrodes and electrocuting them. There was so much fucking corruption. And then Barack Obama washes himself in that narrative of black man from Chicago in order to gain the fucking, almost even subconscious, that he's a real progressive dude tying into this fucking, he's not from Chicago. And then what does he do for Chicago? Puts his buddy Rahm Emanuel in charge of it. And it's been, I don't know, I'm not from Chicago, but from the outside it doesn't look good. It's like, I wish Kanye West would fucking not pick up a gun like Fred Hampton, but listen to the dude. Anyone, that's why I put it to music. Anyone should listen to the dude. Listen to what they have to say. Take the good and leave the bad. There's some bad. There's some antagonism. There's some, like me when I'm talking. There's emotions that need to be unpacked. And there's some stuff that we could probably let go. But there's a lot of fucking good. Tupac, Tupac saying like, this is my favorite one. This is my first one. This was like, usually the first thing that sets you off on a piece or something is really like, I can't listen to this thing.
Excuse my language, but I wouldn't have been nowhere. It's on just like it was on Yeah, and you want to say fuck that just like you said fuck that back then. And niggas is still trapped. And niggas is still trapped. And niggas is still trapped. You know what I'm saying? And it gets me hurt. It's not gonna stop until we stop it. We.
It's really anarchist, right? It's like prefigurative politics. Don't petition anyone. This shit's not going to stop until we actually, like, what's his name? Throw your body upon the machine. I think that's Mario Silva. Mario Savio. There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart, you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon the apparatus. And you've got to make it stop. You've got to indicate to people who run it, the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all. 1964. That's the immediacy that injustice demands, and the language that things like anarchism speak to. Not, again, trying to distance yourself from violence because you don't want to give them a right to come at you with violence. But there's things we can do to, there's an immediacy to the world. There are, when I read about the Iraq War, and there's a lot of emotions coming out, I guess, now, but there's an ongoing genocide right now. How many genocides have we suffered, and how many more do we need? And the fucking blatant, sycophants to power, the sophists, the Samantha Powers and the Ben Rhodes, who they cherry-pick their genocides which support their fucking, our geopolitical ambitions while ignoring others. We've fucked up the country of Iraq. We've fucking anally raped, we've skull-fucked, how many bombs, how many depleted uranium, how many soldiers, how many troops, how many families have we destroyed, half of their, last time I checked the numbers, and this is years ago, half of their middle class gone, partitioned their country, instigated civil wars, funded militias and counter-militias. Whose responsibility is this? What does manhood mean? What does masculinity mean? I don't know. I don't know about the women in our society or the intersexed. But from what I know about being a dude, that's not how you be a dude. And how can you have a younger generation? I had this fucking douchebag I saw on Reddit the other day. I have to pull it up now, I guess. It's like these dudes that I respect in history. It's like, Tupac's cool and he's nice on the mic and shit like that, but I respect him for that. I respect him for his sensitivity and his speaking on shit. That's why he's a good guy, and that's what brought him success in life, is that spirit. Everything else is just bonus. It's like, watch Lil Wayne's deposition. Just fucking, I'm not trying to say Lil Wayne should be violent with people or be mean to people, but a lawyer is trying to manipulate him with language, and Lil Wayne just doesn't allow himself to be manipulated. He pushes back a little bit. That spirit is what is infused into the music, and I really like the last album. Me and the girl, we were listening to it. It's like the world recognizes that spirit, and that's what people like Drake and people that they say are they're soft and this and that. We're not talking about violence when we talk about masculinity or what it means to be a man. We're talking about having a word, being able to reclaim your dignity in the face of antagonism. It's not necessarily always fighting back, but standing your ground and holding your head up and not losing respect. And that takes some cleverness. It takes some honor. What is honor? What's dignity? What's respect? And these men hold it. They hold their that's what I have my Walt Whitman quote. Those who take their dignity into their own keeping, and they're heralded by boys and barbarians as the heroes of their age. I'm not saying Lil Wayne's a hero. He's got his issues. But there's these little instances where he doesn't let himself get punked. There's these little instances where like Drake has a beef with someone and they still run in his mouth afterwards. Like, you either have the beef or it's over. You're not over it and then still running your mouth. Like that guy that I went to visit him who hit me in the head with a baseball bat. I didn't go there to bug him or to scare him. I just went there to check in on him. Just see how his life's going. And also, actually, I wanted to talk to some people there. Not him, but that's his crew. And I talked to some other people and just check in what they're doing. just, it's been a couple years, what I've been doing, what they've been doing. They were my friends for a minute. I lived in their house for a minute. But also just to observe him, see what type of person he's become over the last 5 years and what type of person I've become. And I think I'm happier about what type of person I've become. He just looks sad. And that's your victory, is lead a good life, and that's your reward. And then if people don't lead a good life, that's their reward. It's like, but isn't it sad that like so many good people in history were like, where is this guy? This guy who is a admirable man who was on Reddit. Why am I on Reddit? Why do I even care about this shit? My journey. I began my career in the Australian Royal Navy and later worked as special operations sniper in the Australian Defence Force. I then moved on to the private sector in Iraq, where I was training men who, faced with the harsh reality of the front line, would either desert, join the militia, or be killed. On a trip to South Africa, I was shocked at the continuous slaughter of rhinos and elephants. Populations of these beautiful animals were suffering a 40% loss, mostly due to poaching for illegal ivory trade. Inspired by this, I founded the International Anti-Poaching Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to defending at-risk wildlife. Some context: back in 2014, thanks to your help, we made history with an AMA. We raised money to support the front lines of the war against rhino poaching. This was along the South African-Mozambique border, where a third of the world's rhinos live. In the coming months, we were able to reduce incursions of rhino poachers through our area of operation and into the largest rhino population on Earth by over 90%. So this man, who is admirable and asking people to donate money, was in the Australian Royal Navy and then later on in special operations as a sniper, Australian Defence Force, and then the private sector in Iraq. Did he serve for the Australian military in Iraq, or did he just go out there for the money grab? Because when I got out, remember, I could have gotten a $150,000 linguist job out there. I was thinking about it like, I have a top secret clearance. All I have to do is actually learn Arabic decently. Do what I was supposed to do in the military anyways before I switched to Korean. That wouldn't have been an honorable job for me. I was like, this war is probably bullshit. And I looked into it, and the more I look into it, the more bullshit it is. But this man who doesn't look into stuff like that, and then he says he was training men, he uses the word man, who, faced with the harsh reality of the front line, would either desert or join the militia or be killed. Is that what the narrative is that we're going with? Is that these people maybe just didn't want to fight on the side of the oppressors, the colonizing force? And this is where I tread carefully into cultural treason. If I'm not allowed to defend the Iraqis who want to defend their homeland, because that would mean I'm defending the enemies of America. But that means then being born into this country with this number attached to my body, I just put it on my arm, but it's attached to me from birth. I didn't choose it. I have to defend the American empire. And I can't sympathize with the victims of our American empire. It's the dominant narrative. This man doesn't ask those questions. He goes there and he trains people to kill their own compatriots in the name of global capital. The people who are making money, someone's making money off of Iraq. The Libyan rebels privatized those oil fields before they even established peace and connected with the bankers. There's a global finance syndicate called the Central Banking System, and there's capital that flows all around the world. Just recently, yesterday, I looked into how Saudi Arabia is trying to put money into municipalities. They want stuff that can grow tens of years, decades, at consistent rates. And there's a muni debt bubble, and our municipalities have their own credit cards just like our families. And then there's private capital that helps these municipalities get more debt, and then if they can't pay those debts, they is that Steve Bannon's angle? Because a lot of this stuff's brokered by the Goldman Sachs of the world, the guys who Global capital has to go around the world somehow to make money, and the rich have to make money. They have to have their money making money for them. And that's the reality. That's the objective reality of the world we live in. But this guy, his journey is that the men in Iraq just desert because they're cowards, basically. Faced with the harsh reality of the front line, would either desert, join the militia, or be killed. So he went out there to teach them how to be men and not be cowards. And not question the larger patterns of the world in which you live. And then he went to Southern Africa. You were in the special forces. Are you still working for the private equity or private firms, or who are you working for? But we're supposed to believe that he just wants to save rhinos. And if he does just want to save rhinos, I've seen the shit in Puerto Rico. The people who fucking ignore the poverty and the suffering around them, and then they go and try to adopt dogs and cats. It's like, yeah, you would donate more money to the fucking ASPCA and the fucking animal shelters than you would to the local food bank. You see this in Bill Maher too, in his faulted logic. He cares more about animals than people because people are complicated. And we have all these ugly inputs, and like they're suffering, and the victims of violence often resort to violence too, and then it's complicated because now you're defending people who are resorting to violence. Well, it's a complicated thing, and there's a lot of inputs. But when you invade a country voluntarily in a war of aggression, you're the largest input. So let's start there. We have war criminals that if we got a hold of our war criminals, we'd probably lower the suffering in the world, and we'd lower these cause and effect cycles. It's provable. It's documented. Our invasion into Iraq has increased global terrorism. The war on drugs increased drugs and profitability. These look more like schemes than wars, don't they? The war on drugs looks more like a scheme to make money off of the drug war. Was it 50 billion? How much money goes into the military and local police for the war on drugs and the confiscation? I wrote my rap about that. And they're looking for the cash and the assets, right, to see. So if they see it, they grab it. 50 billion for gold and war on drugs, and the warriors be rolling. Never mind, they only stop 10% of that. Never mind, this is never going to make them quit. Drug enforcement, thug hypocrites, the same shit flown in by our own government. It's the shit that goes through my head. And that's where it comes from. Because every now and then you have, and not just men, women, Tupac's mother, and his godmother, I forget his relation to the Black Panthers, but what I know and what I care about trying to be a good man is I look to my role models. People every now and then, like Fred Hampton, who stand up and say, I'm not a black man. I'm a black man in the sense I'm protecting my community. But I'm a fucking revolutionary in the sense that I'm fighting oppression, systemic oppression. And they're going to try to get us to divide amongst each other. And they're going to try to get rid of people like me who are speaking very clearly and eloquently and articulating truth and trying to educate people. We're the weak link that they want to get rid of. Do I blame him for fucking having a bunch of guns around? Well, like, he probably was more of a realist than I was, because in his time they were killing people indiscriminately. I just read about fucking in the Hunter S. Thompson book. I didn't know anything about the Brown Berets. I should look more in my own backyard in Los Angeles and fucking what the LAPD was doing to Mexicans. Non-violent protesters, and they would just run through them and just beat everyone up. They beat us up in Occupy Wall Street, but like I was one of the people who got it worse because I didn't make it easy for them, and then and the most they did was punch and kick me, but they didn't crack our heads open with like batons and shit. Back then they fucked people up, and they killed them indiscriminately because they could. And this guy is on Reddit, and he's like, well, fucking donate to my cause to help save rhinos. What the fuck do you know about being a man? What the fuck do you... That's the dude in the fucking bar that I was talking to. Playing out his fucking adventure fucking LARP in real life. Adventure role playing. He just wanted to have a gun and shoot people. And you point him in the direction of supposed bad guys, and it doesn't take much to convince him they're bad guys, and then now he's fucking moral conscious. He doesn't have to worry about killing people. He just wants to be a badass. He wants to be a fucking video game superstar. That's the other side of it. People glorify the Black Panthers or Fred Hampton because they were violent. No, it's because they were right. When he spoke, he articulated a closer proximity to truth than I've seen from other people. Then even like Martin Luther King Jr. took him a while to come around to opposing the war in Vietnam because his character was weak. He spoke well, and I have him on here, and his mind was like, I haven't heard many pastors who reference Nietzsche and fucking philosophy. Like Martin wasn't afraid to get deeply philosophical, and he brought the audience along with him that wasn't as educated as him. But he was an elite trying to represent the fucking suffering. And that's what I love about Tupac. Tupac saw it. Tupac might not have phrased his stuff as socialist, communist, blah, blah, blah. And I don't really fuck with that shit either. I'm going to incorporate what is actually, I already got the philosophers that Marx was drawing from. But he's a good economic historian. And all the economic histories I've read include him because he fucking read everyone. Marx was a fucking genius at synthesizing history. No one did it before him. Otherwise, his name, if you could forget him, you would, but you can't because he is foundational in modern economic theory. Whether you agree with him or you disagree with him, you have to mention him. But fucking Tupac just recognized that Malcolm X was a pimp. You forget that this man was a pimp.
I don't even got a chance to get the fucking knowledge. I can't go to college. There's too much problems out here. I don't got the money. Nobody do. You understand? We got to get our brothers from the street like Harry.
Hey, come from this. Malcolm did.
The real Malcolm. You got to remember this was a pimp. We forgot about all our brothers in the street.
You know why Malcolm X didn't get caught up with women like Martin Luther King Jr. did, who had affairs and shit? Because he was a pimp. He's already learned that game. That's what's like. I don't have the most experience, but I'm trying to learn the game to cover my blind spots. I've been with badass girls. I've been with fucking girls who run men for money. A girl who went to Europe and she used 5 guys to cover the trip, one in every different country. And girls who drive men crazy. And I've been driven crazy by women. By the time Malcolm was protesting, that's why he fucking broke with like Elijah Muhammad, because the dude was a perv, and Malcolm didn't have any patience for that because he was using sexuality against the white man since he was young. He was a pimp, pimping out white girls. So Malcolm, now that's not honorable, but Malcolm was in control of his energy from an early age. Malcolm was buying a machine gun, and he asked the dude, "Is it loaded?" And the dude said, "Yeah." And he turned the machine gun on him, and he said, "Get the fuck out of here," and didn't pay the guy. He was crazy suicidal. Tupac was fucking making truce with the Bloods and the Crips. Like, I don't know if that's the right way to live, but these people had big spirits, and they had huge energy, and you have to in order to do what they did. And you take the good and you leave the bad, but they deserve a place within our narrative. They deserve to be talked about and remembered. When I discovered Fred Hampton, I was like, how could I have not known that this human being existed? I don't like a lot of what I see like Jay-Z, but like when he has that line, "I was born on the day Fred Hampton died," it was like, yeah, all right. Like, just show me a little bit. Show me a little bit like you care about shit. That's all. I think that's all the fans want from their cultural leaders. And that's why people are so disappointed in Kanye when he looks like he just cares about ego and money and himself. It's like, no, we need more. That's what, like, Tupac's got this other thing. It's like, Tupac interview. This one I would like to do to music, but I don't think I'm doing this right now. This is like, I was in a vein when I was making these. Like, I would listen to it so much, I get worked up like this. And then I put it to the music because the music makes it easier to digest. You could just play it over and over. It lets it seep into your soul. I was cursed. Tupac was cursed with sensitivity. I guess this is maybe this is in the movie about him.
We're killing each other because we're killing ourselves. When another man, I know, I've been in a position, it's out of our control. It's not like he wants to kill. He just doesn't want to die. You know what I'm saying? It's that situation when we are living in a war zone. It's not as easy as these people are making us think, that they just got some criminal-ass black kids with guns. It's not like that. We live in hell. We live in the gutter. We got us stacked up 80 deep in one building. You know, by the time you get out your house, you strapped to protect yourself. Because you living in the same community that the police is carrying rifles and riot gear. Same, they need them riot, excuse my language, I'm so sorry. The same reasons they need the riot hat, the riot jacket, the flak jacket, the double vest, the 9mm Glocks with extra bullets, the tear gas, the mace, all that. Who do you think the police is using that against? Dogs? So we fighting the same villains that they fight in the street. But instead of them seeing us fighting villains in the street, we all villains.
Is your generation the one that is picking up for where the Panthers left off, saying, all right, enough is enough? The generation before us forgot about the fight. We're picking it back up.
Not only forgot about the fight, forgot about us. Yes, and we're picking it back up. But
That's what
at this
hip-hop
level,
was.
All we're trying to do is unite. And right now, as a year, we got 1 million people that's listening. Now we can tell them something. Now we can try to get them that way. And we might lose some. We might gain some. But we would never even have that audience had we not said what was real. You know what I'm saying? And the main thing for us to remember is that the same crime element that white people are scared of, black people are scared of. The same crime element that white people fear, we fear. So we defend ourselves from the same
Who said that? Chris Rock said that. He said, when I look over my shoulder at the ATM, I'm not looking for fucking black people. I'm looking for niggas. It still doesn't sound normal coming off of my tongue. I was ruined as a child. We would do the sleepovers, and we'd watch Chris Rock stand up. We say, oh, you a smarty yachty. Okay. Answer me this. Can you whoop my ass? And that was like our old, like, all these little lines that you say. A fucking, what is that? We're just trying to figure shit out. 5th grade, 6th grade. It's like school is cool, but there's other shit to learn. And there's other shit to respect. It's like Mike never got good grades, but he was the one who could whoop your ass. And then he taught me that. And when I hang around these little white girls, like this fucking little wannabe opioid addict, 22, she'd be so proud I'm talking about her. Fucking, I asked her that. I was like, why do you like this hip-hop shit so much? Why do the fucking little white girls love violent music? They're looking for that other side of the wisdom. Because her dad's a lawyer, a partner in a firm in Manhattan with a 40th floor fucking apartment overlooking Central Park. She's got the high side of society covered. She's looking for the wisdom on the low. But it's tragic. I told her, you're tragic. You're a fucking cliche. And then you got fucking the rainbow kid who's going to jail. It's like, he's bought too much into the cliche. And no one, this story isn't fucking dominant. Like this, the dominant thing is the guns and the fucking, the fronting. It's like you're learning how to fight from WWF. And when like this isn't, like the fight, the struggle was like class and society, and hip hop was the reaction of the people at the bottom. It's like punk. Punk came out of the, was it East End? The fucking, the working class neglected shit ass part of London. The fucking, all of these countercultures come from the oppressed people. The fucking, over and over again. And then they become a brand. They become clothing that you just drape over yourself. They become an image. They become fucking, drug songs. Which, I mean, I like drugs. Drugs are cool, but addiction's not cool. Drugs are cool, but addiction's not cool. And you have to know what games you're playing. Smoke a joint. I don't know if I'm gonna fucking smoke a joint laced with PCP, you know.
element that they scared of.
You know?
What I'm saying? While they waiting for legislation to pass and everything, we next door to the killer. We next door to him, you know, because we up in the projects where it's 80 in the building. All them killers that they letting out, they right there in that building. But it's better, just because we black, we get along with the killers or something? We get along with the rapists because we black and we from the same hood? What is that? We need protection too.
Finally, I want to ask you about something that someone else asked you.
They stopped Lil Wayne and he went to jail for having a gun. And they're like, Cat Williams had something on this. They're like, fucking, the gun wasn't registered to him. Cat Williams was like, no shit. You think I'm going to fucking shoot someone with a gun that's registered to me? Yeah, you have fucking guns that aren't registered to you. There's just rules about how to live and survive. And I didn't live in that. I lived in between that and normalcy. with friends in that and friends in normalcy, and then you just see like the middle, the translators, the fucking half black or half Mexican, half white. It's like that's what Barack Obama's potential was as a translator between worlds. He didn't choose that path though. He chose a path of self-enrichment and bullshit, fucking hypocrisy, and his legacy is gonna be one of fucking a sellout, empty, hollow brand, piece of shit human being. Fuck that dude. I'm so disappointed in him as a human being. It's like you can't, getting too emotional, you can't suppress the truth. The truth comes out. It's fucking, yeah, he says, God has cursed me to see what life should be like. I was trying to get to that.
The answer was interesting because I think it speaks to you and your generation a lot. Someone said, where do you see Tupac 10 years from now? You said, hey, I just want to be alive. That's real for you.
That's so real. I made a metamorphosis. I'm a new person today because I used to strongly and honestly, I feel like I could represent my generation so much because I honestly did not care whether I lived or died. But now I cannot die with people thinking I'm a rapist or a criminal. I can't leave until this is straight. You know, I'm not suicidal. I can't go until y'all really know what time it is. And then after that, boom, it's all over. And we can see, you know, how it fall. But that's how it is. And the reason being is because if I can't live free, if I can't live with the same respect as the next man, I don't want to be here. Because God has cursed me to see what life should be like. If God wanted me to be this person and be happy here, he wouldn't let me feel so oppressed. He wouldn't let me feel so trampled on. You know what I'm saying? He wouldn't let me think the things I think. So I feel like I'm doing God's work. You know what I'm saying? Just because I don't have nothing to pass around for people to put money in the bucket don't mean I ain't doing God's work. I feel like I'm doing God's work.
He's got the spiritual universal morality. He's tapping into that higher shit. It's like there's a higher level of thinking that's beyond victimhood and beyond identity and just like this. That's psychology 101. It's fucking just, I don't think the case is closed on how humans establish their morality. But in politics, it always seems to be coming back to that. When I'm reading my anarchist theory, I'm reading Godwin right now. And fucking, he's talking about morality. And if we talk about the rights of man and the Enlightenment and the foundations of our declarations of independence, they're talking about what does it mean to be a free human being, free will and morality. And what are these foundational? This is before Freud and before cognitive behavioral therapy. The 20th century is we've broken the door open into the unconscious and subconscious, used it to sell people a bunch of shit by tapping into their deep-rooted insecurities. But we know enough about morality to recognize these higher forms of morality, these higher forms of people. If we were in Eastern philosophy, we would call that a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva is a spirit who wants to lessen the suffering in the world. And that's why I fuck with Zen Buddhism, because Zen Buddhism, if you read the Book of Flesh and Bones, is it? This ancient text which has all these old Zen Buddhist sayings. The introduction talks about how you're equal to Jesus, you're equal to Buddhists. It doesn't allow people to be on top of you. In front of the great Buddha halls, dogs piss at heaven. Sit on top of Buddha's head. It's like, so there's something there, I guess, that I've been cultivating all my life that I recognize in these other people. There's this pride of not letting anyone be on top of you, which was his downfall because he got into that fight in Vegas. And that was his like rowdiness, is these blind spots, they don't just go away right away, I've noticed. You correct yourself. My chess game has gone up about 100 points this year. It doesn't go up quickly. It goes up about 100 a year. I started about 900s and now I'm at 1,300, 1,350. I want to get to 2,000 in my lifetime. I want to get it to master level. But it's little by little. And I feel a little more peaceful, and when stuff happens, I can lower the energy. But I think it's like 10% correction. It's not. It takes you a minute. And Tupac was on the road, but his blind spots got him, if it wasn't a setup, right? But Fred Hampton's blind spots, it's you can't blame them for shit that happens to them. But you want to lower those odds against you by staying. That's some of the wisdom I gather from their lives. And I've tried to stay away from shit. People I haven't gotten rides with in Puerto Rico, just new. I keep my distance from certain shit. I have this rap that I wrote this year. Maybe I should read that rap. Maybe I could find it. Let me see if I can find it. I'll read that rap. That would make a lot of sense. But let me see if I can find it. Since we have this sound bomb and shit, and hip hop seems to be so much a part of my formative development. I really like, yeah, but that's what it is. Hip hop is hip hop is, I don't know, what is hip hop? That's why I talked to this girl. I was talking to someone about it. It's the real. It's like we're trying to establish truth. Hip hop is a vehicle for establishing truth within cultures and groups of people, which like it's a counterculture. So it's a way to get the truth out. And human beings have this innate morality, I think, and then some of us are more naturally inclined to be moral. And Tupac, whether nurture or nature, had this higher level spiritual, he says it right there, he is relating to God and universal ethics. And Fred Hampton was talking about stuff beyond his own identity that allowed him to look past race at a time when that's all a lot of people had was race. I might not have. That'd be sad. Maybe I can find it. I should be able to find it. It would take me a minute to find it. Search. It was a good rap. But just shit like that. I haven't seen everything, but I saw some shit, and I try to put the shit that I saw into a rhyme, because I was like, why do I get mad at these Drakes and these other people? Like, what am I mad about? And I was like, well, what have I seen? What have I lived through? And then I tried to put it down, and I started to count the bodies and count people who, just stuff that's happened, and I was like, damn, dude, I guess it's a little bit. And that's why when Tupac talks about when he talks about I'd have to look it up. He talks about basically like the trauma people are saying now, people who grow up in the ghetto and stuff. There's this trauma, like there's like this PTSD type thing going on. Like you grow up around this stuff and I don't have it. That's sad. I'll find it. It's a good poem. I'm pretty sure I have it somewhere. You're influenced by it, and I wonder about that. Like, so there's this kid we grew up with who we're living in the bad neighborhood now. I got out of the army. I'm 21, 22, 21. He's a kid I knew since 5th grade. When Mike was trying to bully me, and Mike's living with me now with Jay. Yeah. The crew was together, and we had our apartment. We had some other people, and no one was paying rent, and we lost the apartment and stupid immature shit. One of us was like, I think Jay was maybe selling weed, and we were smoking it instead of getting rid of it. And fucking a kid that we knew since 5th grade knocks on a door because he knew we were living there, because it was a pretty bad neighborhood, and they were gangbanging on the street, and we knew he was all affiliated since he was young. And he shows up on a little fucking bicycle, a little fucking ghetto-ass, hood-ass bicycle that you ride around the hood like lowrider bicycle. He was like, yo, can I duck in here? And he was all tweaked out from like methamphetamines. But he said he had to lay low because people were looking for him. And we're like, of course, because I can't even remember what gang he was affiliated with. Inland Empire shit. But we knew he was cool, and he knew us. 5th grade, you're 12, now we're 21. We knew him for 9-10 years. Mike probably knew him longer. I remember when our schools in 5th and 6th grade would have music halls where they try to, I think it's every Friday, every Thursday, probably Friday, for a period you get all of the elementary together into the auditorium. That's why you have an auditorium, so you can have the whole school in one room, or at least most of it. Maybe they broke it up into 2 periods, and we would sing songs. And we would do they would have our teacher in 6th grade, Miss Percy, would lead it. She was musical. And so, but this is 5th grade when I remember seeing Billy. I think that's his name. Billy Go Gruff is what I would remember, because he was growing a goatee. That's how I remember Billy Go Gruff. Yeah, the goatee in 5th grade. He wasn't in our school or class. He was in another class, so I didn't hang out with him, but I knew him. And he was, later on when we moved to a worse neighborhood, he went to my bus stop. And he asked me once, hey, you think I could beat you up? I was like, I stared at him like I usually do, and I was like, nah. He was like, all right. And then he never gave me any problem after that. But, stupid shit. But, I just kept to myself. That's what, I guess, who am I to say what other people should do when they can't keep to themselves? I don't know. But, so in 5th grade, we had that music thing. And, we had like the one-eyed, one-horn, flying purple people eater. And Mike would be like, 2 balls, 1 dick, 5 purple pussy eater. Some shit. I didn't curse back then. I think he was like, oh my gosh, I really thought I would bring Mike to church with our family. And I really thought the first day he came to church with us that he was going to burst in fire. Not really, but kind of really. Like, I was like, when Mike walks through that door, I'm pretty sure he's going to catch fire. Because Mike's like the devil. Like, he curses and he says he has sex with people. And he really just bullies me. He bullied me into being his friend. But, yeah. And our pastor was black, Brother Benson. My parents just went to eat Thanksgiving dinner with Brother Benson. His wife passed, Sister Benson, and now he has a second Sister Benson. And then her health is failing. And he really liked Mike. He saw what we were doing. The adults see what you're doing, trying to help people out, show them different things. Give Mike some other influence, so he hung out with our Christian family, and he always said later on, man, I just want a family like your family. Even though my dad whooped my ass, and I didn't come home for dinner one day because I was playing baseball with everyone in the apartment complex. My dad comes out there and slaps me in front of all my friends. You didn't come home for dinner, we were calling you. Boom, hits me in front of everyone. And every time fucking afterwards, they'd be like, that time your dad slapped your ass. I was like, yeah, well, my parents fucking, they didn't take disrespect. And you realize that the kids whose parents didn't care about them or didn't fucking pay attention to them actually were like, they were longing for that, because attention is attention, even when it's negative. Mike's a really good dad. He has a big family now, and that's all they ever wanted to be as a dad. He grew up into a big old softy. And when we talk about the past, he's like, I was such a bully and he feels so bad. I'm like, no, man, everything works out. He was like, no, man, I was a fucking asshole. He's such a softy now. But, yeah, so in that music thing, Billy, because I got 2 more minutes, I remember the teachers paying extra attention to Billy because they saw that he needed it. Because he was rough back then and he would get in fights and this and that. And we had these little Christian songs we would sing. And Inland Empire is really Christian. We had that one. Fucking got to get to heaven if I'm no. Won't you stand up? Lord, I can't sit down. No, won't you stand up? Lord, here comes the people of the Israelite. Bob, who are those people dressed in white? Here comes the people of the Israelite. We'd sing those fucking songs. Who knows how the fucking non-Christian people in the audience felt. This is in school. This is like, but I was Christian, so it's normal. And then Billy, I remember Billy, the teachers, like giving him positions of authority and power, having him stand in front. And the little things you see when you're young, it's like they're trying to help this kid. I saw why. It's like when you see someone helping a special needs kid, but he wasn't special needs. He was just falling through the cracks. When 10 years later, knocking on our door, can you hide me? They're looking for me. And we let him hang out, smoke weed, play video games, a couple hours. We knew enough friends who had been in methamphetamines by then to see that he was cracked out. So who knows if he was really fucking in danger, if he was tweaking out. I haven't seen that dude since. I don't hang around with people like that. That's the only reason I ran across him. We were living in that neighborhood. I was like, damn, I haven't seen that dude in years. That's what he's doing. These stories, people, role models. What am I trying to remember? Trying to remember the shit that I've learned in life. The paths I've walked down, the paths I haven't walked down. And then we have the top-down cultures just trying to make money off it all, right? And you notice that. You notice the people who don't want to speak on it because it makes them uncomfortable. I talk to people sometimes about past. People I grew up with, it makes them uncomfortable. Those stories make them uncomfortable. They don't fit. They don't fit. If you're not trying to make money, then it's just weird, right? Everyone's just supposed to be looking out for themselves. And we're not supposed to remember the ones who fell off, or we're not, I don't know. What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do, right?